Sure, the knock is the umbrella for essentially anything that is not diplomatic cover. So it's non-official. We're not officially, disguising someone as the third secretary of economic affairs at an embassy overseas, and they don't have a diplomatic passport.
We went through your whole story last time you were here, Shawnee. You obviously were someone who was in DIA, which,
Correct.
When we got to refill in some blanks today for people who haven't heard episodes, we'll definitely do that. But within DIA, you were doing a whole bunch of different things, including, but not limited to, being involved on the periphery of hunting Osama bin Laden.
Trying my hardest.
Yeah. And now the two of you work together, right?
We do.
That's right.
Yeah.
And what's the company called? Artemis?
Artemis is the company that I'm primarily at, but we also partner with Shawnee's company.
Got it.
Viance
okay.
Group.
Viance Group.
Yeah.
And you...
He works for me now.
Oh, uh-oh. She just pulled that on you.
Happy to do it.
Yeah. Well, it's actually great to have you in here, Shawnee, because when we did the last episode, Matt, like I said, we got cut off halfway, and I should have thought of this before, but there were people hearing your story as a CIA knock, which we'll redefine what that is again today. They're like, yeah, I'll take shit that never happened for 500, Alex.
Sure.
And naturally, that's going to be the reaction. But to be clear, you work with Shawnee. You were co-signed by Shawnee. Mad Dog Jim Lawler co-signed you to come in here. That guy is definitely still in the CIA. And sorry, Jim. And I love how he says probably, right? Like there was no denial there whatsoever. When he told me he was still going to like the CIA like Langley happy hours on Fridays,
Everybody,
I'm like,
they all do that.
that's not
They all
helping.
do that.
That's not helping. Don't tell people that.
The free hooch, though,
Right?
There's a lot of places to get good hooch.
I bet he could get free liquor anywhere he went. Yeah.
You're gonna give me that free liquor from behind.
Yeah.
He'll just hit you with that. But anyway, so he co-signed you and everything. But there's I don't want to bury the lead here, and I'd love for you to just explain this so that we can put this to bed all for once. The only reason someone like you is able to come talk on my platform is because you are out. And even if you were out, you might not be able to do it, but you can, because the way I understand it, your identity, along with perhaps some other people who were involved in a similar program, was leaked on the dark web about 1.5 years ago. So what happened there?
Yeah, that's correct. And even sometimes when people are outed, they can't talk about it and things like that. But it just turns out that at this moment, or before we started talking, the enemies of our country knew everything about it, and the people here didn't. But what happened was we actually had an insider threat. We had a counterintelligence issue in the program. One of the people that was involved in our cover program actually divulged information to a country that we're not super cool with. And
Are you allowed to say what country?
No. But after
But A+ for trying.
right.
Yeah.
So after that, what the country did was they took all the information that they were given and they compiled it and they leaked it on the dark web. I think most of this has been tidied up by now, but just so that every other country that hated people from here could know about it as well. And so it became almost impossible to travel during that time period without getting flagged with the biometrics at airports and things like that. So it just went from one day being on the job to getting a notice that, hey, you got to get back here as fast as possible, and this is over. Everybody knows.
All right, we're going to put a pin in that, and we'll come to that at that part in the story where you can give more detail. I just want to make sure out front, like people knew why you were talking. So last time you were in here, and this will be great to have you here, Shawnee, as well today to kind of give the other perspective on guys like Matt and, how you guys see them and what you were doing. But last time you were in here, we went through you initially going into NSA at a desk job working counter intel when you were 19, right?
Right. I joined the Navy, and they poached me from the Navy on a NSA billet, essentially.
Right. And you had like some CIA uncle psychiatrist,
Yeah, before I had joined. Yeah.
So they were tracking you for the Illuminati for sure.
Right.
Got it. So you do that, and then when you're 22, 23, they have this conversation with you where they pull you in and they ask you in a bar, some guy asks you if you want to be a knock. So for people that did not see episode 275 with you, can you just re-explain what a knock is?
Sure. The knock is the umbrella for essentially anything that is not diplomatic cover. So it's non-official. We're not officially, disguising someone as the third secretary of economic affairs at an embassy overseas, and they don't have a diplomatic passport. And so there can be different versions of that, but it essentially says that you aren't officially claimed as a U.S. Diplomat.
So if I'm Mohammed bin Salman and I have caught you in Saudi Arabia and I have 3 of my henchmen standing on top of a roof waiting to push you off, and I go boop, 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 I call up Donald Trump, I say, listen, motherfucker, we got one of your knocks. It's this guy Hedger. Trump basically has to say, you want me to push him for you?
Right, yeah. Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's like totally off books.
It would be up to the administration how they handled that situation. Yeah.
They'd probably push, though. Got to be deniable.
I don't know.
Okay. So you get into this program, and to put the second layer on it that you laid out last time, you did probably like, and I've had a lot of people talk to me about this, one of the most insane training like stories I've ever heard. Like Shawnee,
I'm jealous.
Yeah, he did what, 9 months at some mansion
In a
with some
mansion.
mafia
Learning
billionaire?
how to like cook and dress nicely. I was in a dorm, like in a barracks with a bunch of, other people getting pretend blown up and, yeah, very different. There was no culinary expertise. There was nothing like that.
So you had one guy, and then there would be teams that come in to train you for these 10,000 things you got to be trained on, everything from lock picking to becoming an expert money launderer to all this different stuff. And then you get put out in the field, and your job is to infiltrate criminal organizations, international criminal organizations, not to stop them, but to help them and do it for national security purposes.
Well, so the job isn't to infiltrate the organization. The job was primarily to do covert finance operations, which is us moving our money into other places without people knowing it's the U.S. government's money, and then also to purchase restricted technology or weapon systems from the adversary that we needed to get a hold of to test. The cover that's typically used for something like that in a commercial way can be enhanced by the people you're dealing with thinking, oh, he's a criminal. And so if you're dealing with and being seen to deal with these very, well-known international criminal groups, it adds some legitimacy to,
Sure.
Well, that guy can't be like an Interpol agent. He's not an undercover or whatever. How would he also be, hanging out with these cartel dudes over here? How would, and I think the same reason that, people are like, man, that's, I'm skeptical. Like, why would it work like that? I mean, that's what we're hoping the adversary thinks when they look at this situation. So
you look at it as a trade-off. You look at it as, all right, these organizations exist. We don't like them. We don't like what they do. But if they're going to exist and we can use them to do what we deem to be higher value, in the trade-off of life, then we'll do it.
Yeah, and it's a fade-off, right? It's a shade, like the magician's hot assistant. If people are looking at that, they're not seeing what is actually going on.
Now, what was that first part you said? Not about the, getting weapons programs and trying to uncover that stuff, but the part about moving government moving money for the U.S. government. Can you explain that some more?
Sure. Like, let's say that, look at, what Shawnee used to do, recruiting people, right? We have to pay them money. We have to, buy stuff. We have to finance operations in war zones and theaters that are non-permissive as well. And you can't just whip out your U.S. government visa and, say, hey, here you go, right? Or that person's going to be in a lot of danger. If, let's say that they're spying on a foreign security service, for example, giving us classified information, and we want to get them money. We can't just wire them money from the U.S. government to their bank account because their counterintelligence people will see that and know they're up to no good. It would expose them very quickly. So we have to have money for that or to purchase things that doesn't have the taint of having come from the U.S. system.
So you put it through USAID to fund condoms in Mozambique. And that's it. I understand.
Yeah,
It's all makes
you
sense.
you already know, bro.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Duh.
Yeah, you're not helping. You're not helping the brand today. Mad Dog's not going to be happy with you. But that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to expose the CIA spooky people in front of us.
Yeah,
but anyway, in all seriousness,
any government or intelligence service on the face of the earth has to
Yes.
guard how they pay, who they pay, naturally.
In my old career, I worked on Wall Street, and when I was there, one problem I would constantly come across with potential clients I'd be looking to bring on is that they would have a ton of money sitting in cash. Now, you sit money in cash for a month, might not be too big a deal. 3 months, you can kind of get away with that. But when you sit money in cash for a year, or 2 years, or 3 years, it's literally earning nothing when it could be invested in the market and growing for you over time, which is why it's perfect to have today's episode sponsored by my friends over at Acorns. Acorns is the app that allows you to invest your spare change or just a set amount every day so that you're exposed to the market and not letting all your money sit in cash. And this is also a perfect time to be talking about Acorns because April is Financial Literacy Month. That's right. They made a whole month reminding you to finally take control of your money. And the good news is you don't need 30 days. Acorns makes it easy for you to start saving and investing for your future within 5 minutes. You don't need to be an expert. Acorns will recommend a diversified portfolio that matches you and your money goals. And also, you don't need to be rich either. You've heard me talk about it before. I started investing with Acorns at the beginning of the pandemic when I had absolutely no money. But eventually, some of that spare change that I would invest every day grew enough that I could invest back into this studio and buy some of the very equipment you're looking at right now. Which, again, Acorns is going to let you start with whatever you want. Spare change, $5 a day, doesn't matter. Something is better than nothing. So sign up now and join the over 14 million all-time customers who've already saved and invested over $25 billion with Acorns. Head to acorns.com/Julian. That link is in the description below, or download the Acorns app to get started. Once again, that's acorns.com/Julian. Link in the description below, or download the app to get started today.
This is a paid client endorsement. Compensation provides incentive to positively promote Acorns. Tier 1 compensation provided. Investing involves risk. Acorns Advisors, LLC, and SEC registered investment advisor. View important disclosures at acorns.com/Julian.
Where this has been taken advantage of with the things like what John Kiriakou talked about on my podcast. I didn't even know this, but he was like blowing the whistle on this 5 months ago when he was here before this even happened. And I was just oblivious to it. But like financing poppy fields in Afghanistan so that we can drug up, Iran and Russia, that, that doesn't sit well with people. And I understand that. Now, the poison pill there is that they do it to us. So it's like, I see why people in the back rooms want to do that. I don't want to live in a world where we're doing that to each other. It kind of is what it is. Where people see the absolute waste, though, we've already read out these lists. Everyone can pull up all the memes. A lot of them are real. Some of them are taken out of context, but others are 100% real. When you're paying like, 50 grand here and 5 million there for like DEI and like Somalia, probably not the best.
Not a priority.
Right.
Yeah.
Not the best use of money. So like if you see, whether it be Elon Musk or whoever the hell is going to go in and clean this up, do you think that could be a positive to be able to get that a little bit back on track so that it's used, correctly?
I mean, I think anytime if you truly eliminate waste, it's positive. When I was in Afghanistan, I know probably when you were downrange, we would joke about the, $50,000 gold toilets, that are on the list somewhere. And so I think the more efficiently you can either fight a war or do what we were just talking about, that's common sense.
For sure. Thank you guys for checking out this clip. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like button on this video. It is a huge, huge help. And if you'd like to check out this clip's full podcast episode, that link is in the description below or right here. And finally, you can follow me on Instagram and X by using the links in my description below.